There's this thing we do on Talking Tough that we call war stories, where we just like to get into like some of the crazy stuff that we've seen and done and been a part of in our journey in this crazy world. Is there like, I'm sure you have 1,000, but is there one like in particular that you can just blow people away with?
I've got a couple, but one of the ones that sort of comes to mind straight off, it's actually a wrestling story. When I joined, when I was wrestling with WCW, I went over to Japan to wrestle in Japan. And I was doing a tag team with Descaris at the time, the masked Mexican. And so I went over there and we trained over there. And I was in peak fitness. I did everything. I looked fantastic, did everything, and learned the whole concept of what wrestling was all about. And we were the main event that day. And one of my finish moves is off the top rope. I normally throw the guy into the turnbuckle, hit him with a back spinning kick off the rope. He feeds up from the middle, and I jump off, do a crucifix off the top rope. And as you know in wrestling, once you start, you can't stop in between. You've got to let it flow. And I threw the guy into the turnbuckle and hit him with a back spinning kick. He hit the ground. But when he fed up too far in the center. And I thought, wow. And I'm on top of the rope thinking, I've got to hit him with a flying side kick. He's a bit too far away, but I'd opened up my hands. The crowd already popped. And the rules of wrestling, once you've got the crowd in your palm of your hand, you've got to keep going. So I thought to myself, what am I going to do? Shall I get down the ropes here and do something else? No, you've got to go. And I launched myself as hard as I could, and I caught him flush. I didn't even pull it, caught him flush. I dropped him, and when I landed, I did realize my knee snapped completely. It was just hanging there. And it was a false finish, so I rolled him up. The referee's called 1, 2. He's kicked out. And now I've got to get back to the corner. The crowd's going berserk. I've got to get back to the corner, tag my main man in to finish off the fight. So I've crawled over. The crowd's popping. I get out of the ring. He goes in. I've still got to come back in and save him now. So as I jump in the ring to save him, my leg gives way, and I potatoed the guy straight in the jaw by accident, He gets up. He kicks me straight in the ribs, knocks the wind out of me. I roll out of the ring, fall outside, and he kicks me again. I literally grab him. I'm telling him, I've busted my knee. Anyway, eventually gives me the last week, takes the complete air out of me, right, completely. We go off and win the match. But the crowd's cheering on how brilliant this performance was. But no one realizes I've just broken my knee completely. Ended up having a reconstruction after that. So that was really weird. I mean, and the rules of wrestling are if you're not dead, you keep going. So I implemented that. That surely came to fruition straight away. So that was a really, really weird but exciting experience.
There's that fake pro wrestling stuff for you, right? Man, it's dangerous stuff.
Yeah, but all the bumps, all the falls, the blood, they're all real.
Oh yeah,
that's it. I was talking on the show. I said my first pro wrestling match, I broke a disc in my back. My second, I ruptured my eardrum. The third, I ruptured had a blind spot in my eye. My wife goes like, "Why don't you go back to real fighting? It's more. You never had this experience."
Very true. Very true.
Hey Sam, I want to ask you a couple pro wrestling questions, if you don't mind, about your WCW days. What year did you start at WCW?
That was just after 2001.
So that was in the height of that was NWO, Hall and Nash, and when the inmates were running the asylum over there, pretty much.
Crazy.
What was your first day like? What was your welcome and reception like backstage?
It was well, first of all, it was Paul Orndorff, the late Paul Orndorff, who got me interested in this wrestling. I had a reason why I went across. I was coming out of contract with K1, but I sustained a severe injury over a period of time. I had a 10-centimeter hairline fracture fairly deep through my shin, and I used to get a flex through my shin every time I'd kick. So the medical department, my own medical department, had a look at it, and they said to me, "We need you to take a break. Otherwise, you'll end up breaking your shin. We're going to end up putting a rod through it. You need to take time off, at least six to 12 months." And I thought, geez, I can't do this. I said, I know I'm coming out of contract, but I've got another contract coming up. I said, I can't. And they said, well, it's up to you. It's a gamble you're going to take. So spoke to family and so on. And I came to the idea as, you know what, I haven't had a break. I might as well. I want to preserve my body as much as I can, even though I was still sore, but I want to preserve as much as I couldn't bear the thought of having a rod running through my leg. So I went to see K1 and said, you know, I need the time off, which they weren't happy about, being one of their key fighters and making their money as much as I make money, but they wanted me to continue on. Typical Japanese type scenario, you've got to keep going at all costs. And only those who have gone through that will understand what I'm saying. But when I did decide to step away, I thought, you know, let me see what the wrestling's like. And I remember speaking to Paul Orndorff. He says, why don't you come over and trial? And that's exactly where I met Bob at. And we did the trials, and 3 days later we got called in and we had a contract. You know, I was with Eric Bischoff, and Eric Bischoff.
I got to cut you off for 1 second, because Butterbean wrestled professionally. He knows what it's about.
Yes, he did.
Bumps. So Sam needed a break and he needed time off, and you went to pro wrestling. That was your answer?
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I guess the break from kicking people in the head.
Anyway, sorry, man. I just want to make sure I had that right. Okay.
Well, for the timeline purpose, I mean, Sam, what are you, 54, 55?
Yeah, 54 going on to 55.
Okay,
so what happens when you get backstage? Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, how these guys, Scott and Rick Steiner, how these guys treat you?
I probably had more of a dealing with Rick Steiner and his brother than what I did with some of the other guys. But, you know, it's quite interesting characters. I admired wrestling since I was young, so I've always loved wrestling. I've always had this interest. And watching these guys work, and that work was unbelievable, especially coming from a sport where I said to you before, it was me versus you. Now it's me and you versus a crowd. You know, these guys knew the business. I mean, spending time with Ric Flair, listening to Ric Flair coach or give advice was absolutely amazing. Paul Orndorff, exactly the same. They did a sit one day in the gym at the power plant. We had 4 power plant. They did this, Paul Orndorff and Ric Flair. Honestly, I thought it was real. When I say I thought it was real, these guys are going to kill each other, but it wasn't. It was just a work, and the way they did it, they just pulled it off so well that I was just blown away. I was absolutely blown away. So learning from these guys, learning the business was the key element to being a wrestler. You can't just be a wrestler for the sake of knowing how to wrestle. You've got to know the business, full stop.
So did anybody test you backstage?
It's funny you say that. Look, when I say test me, it took a long time for people to build trust in me, because a lot of them thought that I was going to kick him in the head or punch him straight in the face. So anytime I said to someone, look, let me kick you, just take the bump to sell it well, they used to pull away so far. It just took me forever. I used to get sore hips by the time I finished training from kicking. And I remember Chronic doing a gig with Chronic one night, and they're 6'4", 6'6", and I had to kick him in the head. And I said, I can pull it. I can literally pull it an inch away from your face. Just take a bump. That's what you need to do. But every time we kept trying, it kept pulling away, and it made it look like shit. So I said, you've got an option. You either do as I say, or otherwise I'm going to just let it go. Yep. And you've got no choice but to take a bump. But I think he did the best he could for whatever it was worth. And I can understand on the other side, when you've got someone who's a crazy person or who's a former fighter sitting on one side and you're used to just taking a bump, it's a trust thing, and that's the biggest thing that I had to build with all these guys.
So, Sam, who when you were coming up, like, who was the big wrestler out of Australia besides yourself? Like, who was the wrestling guy? I'm not sure who represented Australia per se. I know, like, a lot of American talents, right? We have Hulk Hogan, The Rock, and all these people. Who came out of Australia? Who was the man?
Oh God, who did we come out of Australia? I mean, we had our own locals here in Australia. I'm just trying to think of.
Man, Dominic DeNucci. Dom DeNucci.
Yeah, Dominic DeNucci was one. Yeah, but we're talking about. We're talking about the Hulk Hogan status type of guys. I really can't think of anyone. I really, off the top of my head, can't think of anyone. Like I said, for me, predominantly it's been the fight game. Wrestling was sort of the end piece before I went into MMA. You know, so yeah. So I really can't think of. We had a lot of Australian greats, but not at that level.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on patreon.com for $1.99 a month to watch our full shoot interviews ad-free and help our channel grow. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.